What's up, everybody? This is 3X, and this vlog here is something that's kind of spur of the moment. It's July 14th, 2013, one day removed from the verdict of the trial of George Zimmerman in the shooting death of Trayvon Martin. Of course, Zimmerman was acquitted, found not guilty of second-degree murder, and basically he is a free man. But just because he was found not guilty does not at all implicate the fact that he was right for his actions. I mean, he is still very much wrong in his actions, and I wanted to kind of explain my own personal opinion on that and a couple of other things as pertains to this case and the social and political implications of this case. First of all, I feel for the family of Trayvon Martin, because there is no way in the world that they can feel satisfaction knowing the fact that this young man's life was taken in such a manner, and the person responsible, at least in the court of law, is not to be punished for it. Even though justice was served, so to speak, the fact of the matter is that Trayvon Martin was still wrongfully killed. The problem, however, is that this right now is not so much a legal matter as much as it is a moral matter. And to be honest with you, it was always a moral matter. Legally, George Zimmerman was within his rights by the state of Florida to react in the way that he did. However, morally, he did not act in a way that he should have. And if he didn't act in that way, Martin would still be alive, and we wouldn't be in this situation that we're in right now. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm not going to beat around the bush. George Zimmerman is an idiot, a bull-headed moron by every single shape and sense of the word. He should have never gotten out of a car. He should have never ignored what the dispatcher told him about not approaching Martin. And he should have never engaged Martin in the first place. Point blank and simple. 3 points right there. His civic duty ended when he made that 911 call to report a suspicious individual in his neighborhood. That right there is where it should have ended. At that point, and he goes about his business, the police arrive and they handle the situation as they are trained properly to do. Everything else that happened afterwards, however, was idiocy on George Zimmerman's part. Idiocy on the part of a dumb Florida moron who decided that he himself wanted to play sheriff. He in turn got his ass kicked by Trayvon Martin as a result, which in turn warranted him under state law to be able to use lethal force because he thought his life was threatened. That brings me to 2 points that I want to make here. The first is that to say that George Zimmerman did not in some way, shape, or form profile Trayvon Martin or have a preconceived prejudice towards a black kid in a hoodie that he did not recognize makes you just as much of an idiot as George Zimmerman was and still is. It can't be proven in the court of law, but it can be proven in the court of public opinion. And the reason why is that we're not dumb. People are not dumb. You've seen this stuff happen all the time. You've heard about it happen in the news all the time. You either know somebody who's experienced it, you've experienced it yourself, or you've heard about experiences of the same type of situation. We know what George Zimmerman did. We heard what George Zimmerman said. And it's not outside of the lines of anyone else's train of thought. It's almost a psychological thing where you automatically associate someone's appearance or someone's mannerisms with a certain type of behavior. You see a black man in a baseball cap and a hoodie, and you almost subconsciously associate him with some form of criminal activity. Even if you don't intentionally think that way, it crosses your mind. And that's whether you are white, black, Hispanic, Asian, whatever race. Because these certain traits and these certain things have been embedded in our minds psychologically by way of the media, by way of music, by way of television, media in general. To the point where it's, like I said, almost a subconscious thing. And maybe subconsciously that affected George Zimmerman to the point where he had felt the need to approach this individual, Trayvon Martin, because he thought that he was about to engage in some form of criminal activity. Now, on the other side of the token, maybe it was conscious. Maybe George Zimmerman did, in fact, profile Trayvon Martin solely on the fact that he is a young black man who he did not know in his neighborhood. Unfortunately, the only person who knows that for sure is George Zimmerman. And the only other person who knows that for sure is Trayvon Martin, who sadly is not with us anymore to be able to tell his side of this story. Which is a tragic thing, because truth be told, as I said before, had not George Zimmerman used his own common sense and not put himself into that situation, Trayvon Martin would still be alive. The fact of the matter is that George Zimmerman acted in a way that was completely irresponsible to the role that he had within his organization, Neighborhood Watch, or whatever the case may be. Because the point of such an organization is to oversee the safety of other citizens within your community. It's not to go out there and play sheriff. It's not to go out there and try to be the big hero and approach somebody who you don't even know is going to be a threat to you. That's the most mind-boggling thing about the whole situation to me. How it is that you can approach somebody not knowing whether they are armed or not, and bold-faced ask them, "What are you doing here? Who are you?" Now, in that type of situation, one of two things is possibly going to happen. A, the person's going to blow you off, tell you to piss off, and keep on moving. Or B, the person is going to feel threatened and in turn threaten you. And then based on the fact that you do not know whether or not this person is armed or not, you do not know whether or not this person is preparing to engage in some form of criminal activity or not, you're basically asking for trouble stepping into that situation. And unless you are completely aware that you could possibly lose your life in that type of scenario, there is no reason whatsoever for you to even put yourself into that type of scenario. So in that respect, in my personal opinion, George Zimmerman knew exactly what it was that he was doing. Because there is no way in the world, aside from him actually being a complete stark raving idiot, that he would put himself in that situation if he had not known that he would possibly be physically threatened by this individual whom he is voluntarily engaging. That's as simple as that. So the other thing, and this is probably the most important thing about this whole issue that I wanted to touch on, is the very thing that, in my opinion, exonerated George Zimmerman, which is the stand your ground law. And it's something that came into public attention through this trial, but it's not something that has not been discussed in detail. And I think it should be, because it's an issue that needs to be resolved seriously. For those of you who don't know what the stand your ground laws are, it's a law that allows for citizens of a specific state to justifiably use lethal force in self-defense where there is reasonable belief of an unlawful threat. Reasonable belief. The truth, however, is that there is so much gray matter within this law that it basically does not cover the design for what it is that it was signed or passed on for. Now, the state of Florida is not the only state that has a stand your ground law in place. In fact, there are several other southern states, even some northwestern, midwestern states that have stand your ground laws. But there's a very stark similarity between these states and the law within these states. States with stand your ground laws have more homicides than states without stand your ground laws. The crime rate in Florida alone actually tripled since the stand your ground law was passed in that particular state. The majority of the shooters that have been involved in cases that pertain to the stand your ground law have been white, middle-aged males. Now, if these are not startling similarities, then I don't know what is. Truth of the matter is that Trayvon Martin is not the first victim of this law. And unless something is done to repeal, ratify, abolish, or revise this law in all of these particular states who have it, Trayvon Martin will not be the last. Because the truth is that stand your ground is nothing more than a get out of jail free card for any knucklehead with a trigger finger that decides that they want to try to play hero. Basically, in 21 states of the Union, you can shoot anyone and say that they were threatening you and not spend a single, day in jail, except for the days that you're on trial for the shooting, where you will eventually be exonerated because you use the stand your ground clause. Now, on top of the figures that I'm giving you there have been numerous incidences of domestic disputes, of gang-related shootings, of drug-related shootings, in which the shooters used that same stand your ground clause to literally get away with murder. It's ridiculous. And the fact that these laws even exist is ridiculous. like I said, the law itself only does more harm than it does good when you compare it to states that don't have that law, that go through the usual practices of situations where lethal force is used by a non-military or non-law enforcement officer. I'm not at all saying that if you are physically threatened to not defend yourself. That's not the message that I'm bringing up here. You do what you got to do. But how it should work is that afterwards, you should be held individually accountable for the actions that you took for self-preservation. Which means you should be tried by a jury of your peers and show to them that your actions were in true self-defense, without having the protection of some idiotic, incompetent, self-serving law that basically gives you a free pass to do it as many times as you want to, so long as you claim self-defense. That fact should be proven in court. And the fact that that has to be proven in court to the majority of the states of the USA is reason enough why people don't put themselves in that type of position to have to go through that whole process, compared to states like Florida and Georgia, Texas, Louisiana, Tennessee, Kentucky, Kansas, Oklahoma, Arizona, Utah, Idaho, North Dakota, South Dakota, Michigan, Indiana, West Virginia, Alaska. You know the similarity between all of those states? I hate to say it, but majority of these states have also more lenient gun laws, to where it is easier to get a hold of firearms. So there, in fact, you have kind of a domino effect of things knocking each other over and over and over, and basically advocating this type of vigilante style Old West behavior. That was fine in the Old West, but the last time I checked, this was 2013. And there should be a certain level of accountability and a certain level of civil behavior being executed by everybody, to where you make better judgments. Not just about other people, but better judgments about yourself and your situation, and how it is that you can make yourself stay out of situations where you may possibly be physically threatened. And the truth of the matter is that the stand your ground law does not help that. It is the opposite of that. It brings forth the opposite effect of that. And my friends, until something is done about that, it isn't going to be long before we see another George Zimmerman. And that's the truth of it. So that's pretty much what it is that I have to say about this whole issue. It's not going away. And you probably have a whole lot of people out there who are going to move on and say, oh, well, he got away with that one. But the truth is, there is still accountability that he has to have. And more importantly, there's accountability that we have to have as a nation, as a society, towards this type of behavior, and towards the fact that certain governments and state legislatures actually advocate this type of behavior. It should make people feel very uncomfortable and very scared, to be honest with you. And something has to be done before the next needless death takes place and somebody can just get away with it by just saying, I felt threatened. And that's basically my opinion on this whole subject. So with that, we're going to cut this video off. Thanks everyone for watching. And if you have your own opinions, then let's talk about it. Feel free to post in the comment section below. And yeah. Until next time, this is 3X signing off. I will see you all in the next video.